Hello my loves, welcome back to my bullet journaling channel. My name is Sophie. I'm so glad you're here and welcome to my December 2025 bullet journal plan with me. I cannot believe that we're already in the last month of the year and we're setting up for December already. These past couple months especially have flown by so quickly, but we're already here for the last setup and I cannot wait to show you guys what my final theme looks like for December. As of late, we've always been using a separate piece of artwork in a sketchbook that I usually do with alcohol markers and then pasting that in. So we're doing the same thing with today's plan with me here, and then afterwards we will get into the bullet journal. And I do also want to say before I get too far into this video that when I was filming, I felt very much like I wanted to get my head into the camera. So unfortunately, you will see my head pop into the bottom left corner here. I try when I film to always keep my head out of frame, but sometimes when I'm doing very detailed work, like I'm going to be doing with this art piece, I get really close and personal to the sketchbook and it's kind of hard for me to keep my head out of the way of the camera, but I hope you guys don't mind that. Anyway, but yeah, December. Let's talk about my theme idea for this month, because I'm not gonna lie, out of all the themes that I've done so far this year, I don't think that this is necessarily the most complicated and intricate bullet journal setup I've ever done, but I think it might be one of my favorite artworks that I've made in the entire year of 2025 so far, which is really good to hear because it's always nice to end out the year on a really happy and positive note. So basically, you may have seen from the thumbnail of this video, but I'm going to be drawing this woman wearing completely white, a white veil, a white eye covering, white dress, and she's walking through the woods holding a very shiny sword. Now, at first glance, she looks a little bit like she is going to be married or she's going to be baptized, one of the two, but I'm actually drawing a character that I saw on Pinterest and I got really inspired by, and she's from a book that I was recently reading. So my initial plan for my December plan with me was going to be to do something Nutcracker related, because obviously December, Nutcracker, ballet, you know, all kind of goes together. But when I was scrolling through Pinterest to look for ideas for that, I came across, I think it's actually an AI generated image of this person here on the screen, which I believe is supposed to be Poppy or Penelope Balfour from the book From Blood and Ash. Now, I read this book back in February. It's actually a reread for me. I read the first 3 books in this series in 2021, but I recently reread Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, which is book 2 in that series, and of course Poppy is the main female character, and I love that series so much. Is it well written? No. Are there many plot holes and mistakes and stuff in it? Yeah, 100%. But the vibes are immaculate, and I really like the main character Poppy. And I really also like the picture that I saw because it seemed very dark end of the year vibes with someone walking through the forest in this fantasy setting holding a sword. That's so sick. Now the picture that I saw, however, had reddish orangey leaves that I thought might work better for an autumnal month, so I decided to change it instead to be more like fir and pine trees in the background and to keep it green. And because Poppy canonically has very bright red hair, the green and red kind of looks like Christmas, you know? So it's not a directly Christmas theme, but I am using Christmassy colors with the red and the green here. And then again, she is not necessarily a bride. She is wearing all white and a lacy veil and things like that, but I think that the covering over her eyes really emphasizes that she is not in a happy marital situation here. She's actually, at least in the book, she's what's called the maiden, so she's supposed to be kept pure and innocent and wearing all white, and she's kind of part of the lore in this kingdom. Now of course she hates her role as the maiden. She wants to escape this very limiting position, and as readers we want the best for her and also for her to escape that position as well. However, for this particular artwork, I really loved the white veil. I loved the white in the dark forest, the contrast there, and I wanted to push myself to try to draw something a little bit more transparent or translucent at least. So I'm still going to kind of keep that white gown veil look, kind of walking through the forest. Again, it's not perfectly Christmassy, but it kind of gives Christmas vibes. There's going to be a little bit of sparkles and snow falling and things like that, so it kind of fits December in my opinion, while also mixing together one of my favorite characters from my favorite book series. I honestly should lean into more of drawing my favorite book characters a lot more, because I really do resonate a lot with a lot of my favorite books. I wish they're real people. I want to talk to them. I want to be with them. I want to be sitting with them at dinner and yapping with them. So I honestly want to spend more time drawing my favorite characters and trusting myself to be good enough at art to do their character well, to give them a good portrait, you know? So I'm actually very proud of how this one finished out. Now, like I said at the beginning, I am using alcohol markers here for the majority of this entire piece. And specifically for the background, I love using alcohol marker, like black alcohol marker, for a really dark background. It's always very nerve-wracking to really color in the background completely with black because you can't undo it after that, you know? But I've done it quite a few times at this point over the years, and it always is such a satisfying look to have such a dark contrast. Now, of course, all of the white on her dress and on her veil is just the white paper peeking through. I'm using quite a lot of negative space here and only really coloring in the shadows, but I'm trying to still keep a lot of space white because, of course, her dress is completely white and I don't want her dress to look gray. Right? So we want to keep it very bright as possible. Sorry to interrupt. I do think that the air conditioning turned on in here, but I don't believe that you can hear it. So I'll try to do my best to edit out any noise. I think it's going to be fine. But anyway, yeah, so I'm using a lot of negative space here. I'm using a couple shades of light gray to add those shadows in where I think that the dress would have some creases, specifically like on the crease of her elbow, under her underarm, things like that. But then I'm actually going to go in a little bit later. I may have already done it at this point actually, but the veil specifically over her head draping towards her shoulder was the most specific part that worried me the most because I wanted to still see her bright red hair underneath it, but I didn't want it to be too bright. I wanted there to be a distinct difference from where you see her hair and her skin peeking out in the middle versus where there would be a light bit of lace and tulle covering it, aka the veil, right? So I started out by trying to like stipple the alcohol markers and make it just a little bit more transparent that way by not fully coloring the sections, but it didn't really look very realistic. So I ended up using my alcohol markers and fully coloring in the red hair and the tan shoulder, and then I used a white colored pencil and went over it to kind of add that white sheen on top. Now this was a lot of trial and error and back and forth to kind of make this look blended and natural and realistic. So take it from me, this was not a very easy piece to complete, but after using the colored pencil, I went in with a little bit of blending alcohol marker, like the one that's clear, the way you can blend things together. And then I also used some white acrylic markers / white gel pens to really emphasize the flower and applique details that would be like dripping down the lace veil. And then eventually I'm going to go back in with a black fine liner and a black pen to outline these flower details. I decided I wanted to keep them outlined. At first I wanted to keep them completely white and not outlined because I feel like real lace wouldn't have the outline, but then it just looked really messy in comparison because everything else in the picture has outlines, like even her hair and her dress, they all have black line art to it, right? So I decided to go back in and add the line art again in the veil, and I think that pulled everything together. You know, there's some little lace detailing on the end, just a lot of like swirlies and leaves and sparkles and things like that to pull everything together. Again, quite a bit of winging it, I'm not gonna lie, but I think towards the end of this we have a really overall quite pretty design that I'm very pleased with. Interrupting our regular scheduled programming for just a minute to talk about my undated bullet journal that I sell in my online shop. This is a little bit of self-promo, I admit, but on themingostudio.com you can shop my undated bullet journal. It is a full 12-month bullet journal that you could use for planning, for academics, for work. There's artwork drawn in but not colored, so you can customize it to your own needs, and you can fill in any date so you can start the bullet journal whenever you want in the year. My website is always linked down below, and it would be a great thing to get before the Christmas season, so I wanted to shout that out for you guys as well. Thanks so much for your support as always, and let's get back into the video. As always, once the artwork is done, we're going to be pulling out my actual bullet journal and we're going to be cutting and pasting this design into the spread on the left. I intentionally made it almost the entire size of the page on the left so that it would almost completely cover this entire paper here, and I'm using double-sided tape to just paste her in the middle. I think Poppy looks really good. I think the contrast looks great, the red and green looks great, the pop of color looks great, and I even think that the veil looks pretty translucent, so I'm honestly very pleased with myself. Not to keep tooting my own horn, I will stop now, but I will just say that after a year of trial and error, as always, you know, you have those themes that really work, you have those themes that really just kind of fall a little flat. This one I think was very successful in the artwork. Now, as far as the right page goes, we're going to be making a quick little calendar here. Usually I like to do a much bigger calendar, but for the month of December, I really only have one final week of classes and then finals week, and then I'm back home for the winter break. So there aren't going to be too many events and things that I have to plan over the next couple of weeks. I think a little calendar like this will be totally sufficient for me. I'm taking inspiration from Leela Journals a little bit whenever I do this final calendar design. I love watching her bullet journal setups, at least her older ones when she used to post on YouTube more consistently, because she always has a lot of detail into her spreads and they look very very intricate and purposeful. So along with the calendar just being, you know, regular boxes and lines and stuff like that, I also added a spot at the bottom for a little to-do list. And then I'm eventually going to be outlining the calendar with a little dotted line to add a little more detail, a little more, you know, oomph, I guess, a little je ne sais pas. And then I also have a little sprig leaf in the bottom right corner and some sparkles everywhere. Very simple, not too much going on, to be honest, as far as like art and decoration. I feel like the big piece on the left that took me like 2 hours to draw kind of speaks for itself here. But I did want everything to kind of match and look cohesive, even though I'm using water-based markers on the right and alcohol markers on the very left. If I had to make one big change to this entire spread, I believe that the green and beige stripes in the calendar are a little too warm toned. I think that even the red and beige on the spread on the left in the artwork, they're still technically warm colors, but they lean on the cooler toned side. Like the red is very cool toned and almost pinkish, you know. The green itself leans closer to blue than it does to yellow, and I believe that the colors that I used on the right are a little too warm. I would have rather used a gray instead of the beige, just because I feel like the silvery vibes of her dress also kind of emphasize cooler tones. So yeah, overall, I think that would be the one change I'd make, is slightly change the color of my water-based markers. But also, I was working with limited supplies here at my apartment because I do share my stationery with my sister and she lives back in my childhood home. I really have a limited amount of alcohol and water-based markers in comparison to what I had over the summer when we kind of combined our collections. Now, I'm not by any means saying that I'm ungrateful for the stationery that I have. I don't think that I have enough. Trust me, I have plenty of stationery, but I did not have a color that perfectly matched the cool gray in my collection. So I used the closest one that I could find, which is that little warmish gray. Oh, green. Did I say gray? I meant green. My bad. But yeah, I'm actually going to be using those exact same colors for this second spread as well. Again, I wish it was just a little bit cooler toned, but in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're on a separate spread from the first page, it's really hard to tell because the colors are not right next to each other, that they're just a little bit off. So it doesn't really bother me that much. Now, if you notice, yes, we are jumping directly into a weekly spread here. This is actually going to be a weekly spread that spans over the first 2 weeks of December because each row here is a different week. So I have 7 boxes in each row, obviously for each day of the week, and this is basically going to be lasting me until the 14th of December, which is perfect because that's when I move back home from college. This is literally just a couple of days I have in university before the semester ends and we're all free to go home. So the boxes are a little smaller than usual, I suppose. I was thinking that, like, usually I would fit like 4 boxes per page, not 8, or I guess 7, but you know, technically it could fit 8 because the way that these boxes are aligned. But in the grand scheme of things, like, again, not too much to plan this month, and I've also been just using smaller boxes recently. Like in November, I had very small boxes for my weekly spreads and I made it work, so it's fine. Now you may notice that I actually am not using an academic planner this month. I like to use one every single month that I'm in university just to help me plan all of my tasks, my projects, my exams, things like that. And I usually dedicate an entire page or an entire spread to that particular tracker. Well, because like I said, in December, I only have 1 week of classes and then a week of finals, there is not too much that I can't already just put into this weekly spread. So my plan here is to put all of my due dates and assignments in this spread. If I have anything that doesn't actually belong to one specific day, I'll put it in the notes section. And then after the week is done, my assignments are done. So we're all good. You know, I don't think I really need an entire page of planning for academics this particular time around. But if you want to add one to your own setup, feel free to. I always love to make sure I'm planning in advance in every area of my life that needs it. So if you feel like you need an academic planner or any other type of tracker, like a gift planning tracker for Christmas or something like that, in your December setup, feel free to add it into your own bullet journal. After adding a little bit of a final touch with the little beige cross-hatching in the back of every other box, this very quick setup is done. I know it was a very short video today. It's because my December setup doesn't need that much. To be honest, it's very simple and quick, but I have quite a few videos planned for the next upcoming month, so I hope you guys are excited to see some more end of year content as we move our way into 2026. I love you guys so much. Make sure to check out my undated bullet journal if you haven't already. It is going to be linked down below for my online shop. And with that, I will see you guys very soon in my next video.